not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. Ethiopian proverb. Good evening. I am Ricardo O'Brien. Merely a week has passed since our last conversation, since the last time we met here, and another name is added and has been added to the statistics of another young Black man whose life was snuffed out at the hand of the police. His name is Rayshard Brooks, 27 years old. Last Sunday night, we explored the facets of racism. Tonight, we focus on one single purpose: empowerment. Empowering our young Black men to be the best that they can be, to be all that they can be. Tonight, we will examine what we are doing is aimed to survive or aimed to thrive. Glenn Singleton, in his book, Courageous Conversation about Race in School, posited 4 agreements, 4 protocols that one must have in having a courageous conversation. And these are: 1, stay engaged. Remain emotionally and intellectually involved in the conversation. 2, experience discomfort. Yes, it will be a bit discomforting. It will be a bit uncomfortable. However, it is through dialogue, even when uncomfortable, the healing and the change begins. 3, speak your truth. Tonight, we will seek to be opened, and work through the thoughts that we've been struggling with or grappling with. And 4, expect or accept non-closure. That is, do not rush to find a solution. And particularly in the business of race and racial issues, the racial crisis, we will accept that we may not find closure. So let's bear these in mind tonight as we delve in, as we seek to explore this whole notion of tackling, empowering our young Black men in the society. To help us tackle this very important subject, a very important topic, are my friends coming back at my dinner table. And so let me first bring on and welcome around my dinner table, Miss Denise Hill, the lone sister among the brothers. And Denise is an author, a speaker, an accomplished broadcaster, communication specialist. In fact, communication for her is everything. She's a mother of a brilliant, talented young lady. And as I say again today, she's the lady who opened all the doors that I've ever walked in radio in this country. Denise Hill, how are you doing, sister? Come on.
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Great, Denise. Of course, man. You had to make it back. And let me also invite Dr. Roger Ball. Dr. Roger, he's an educator and assistant principal at New York City Department of Education, a clinician, a published author, a father of 4, working on more, and a pastor, an amazing brother all around. Dr. Ball, how you doing, bro? Come on in.
Pleasant good afternoon to you, my brother, and to all of our listeners out there. Thank you so much for having me. I am not working on 4. Beyond 4.
You worked on 4 already.
That's right.
Course, inviting, of course, my brother, my friend, Mr. G. Wayne Elliott, and he's a corporate executive. He's the executive chairman of Bronx Bethany Community Corporation, and of course, member of the board of trustees of Eastern Nazarene College. He's a husband and he's a father of 2. You tell us how many more he's working on. Wayne, how you doing, bro? Come on in.
I'm fantastic. We're done with kids.
All right.
Outside support.
There you go. And joining the conversation today, for the first time around my dinner table, is my friend and brother, a newly minted father. And you'll see, because he's trying his best to stay up at night because he's still having problem doing that. He's Dr. Maurice Cassell. He specializes in child and adolescent therapy, marriage and family therapy. He's a crisis counselor, and he's an all-around great brother who has been working with the youths all his life, even since he was a little boy. And he's grown up a little bit now. Dr. Maurice, how you doing, bro? Come on in.
Oh, what an honor it is to join such an amazing group of friends at your dinner table. Lady Denise, it's good to meet you.
Hello.
Most honorable G. Wayne, it's good to see you again, my friend. And the most holy of holy reverends, Dr. Roger Paul.
There you go again.
There you go.
And of course,
Presiding
Ambassador.
prelate.
It's good to see all of you and our friends joining in.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Now you understand the type of conversation we're going to have tonight. So, welcome aboard. And just a few important announcements before we jump on in. We'll be taking your questions tonight live, so feel free to go on in. Last week I didn't answer as many questions. Today we'll try to do that for you because you're a part. Your voice is important here, and we want you to hear what you have to say. Also, very big announcement now at 7:07 p.m. I'm telling you tonight, right now, that later on about 9 o'clock we'll be making a huge announcement. We'll be unveiling a major initiative that you're going to want to hear about, to be a part of, for your son, for your brother, for your dad, for you too. So stick around for that. That's a major announcement that will take place at 9. Well, we're about to jump into our conversation today, our courageous conversation. But before that, take a look at this clip.
All rise.
Aduelo.
That is the look. Where can we reach? How can we break through this cycle, this crisis of the racial issues that clearly pervades the society in which we live? Tonight, as I said earlier, it's a courageous conversation we are hoping to have, we are intending to have. And of course, we will press in with the mindset at all times of achieving change, because change is ultimately what we want to see. So my friends around my dinner table, you saw the clip a while ago. Which of you have ever can relate to that in some form or another? Denise, I don't know, up to you.
Now, which clip? The one that was just played?
The one that just said, the one that you just did.
Yeah, I mean, we've all had, I won't say we've all, I've experienced those encounters where you weren't quite sure what was going to take place. You have your expectations because of the experiences of your past being raised in this country. And you would hope, you like, you know, sometimes when you get pulled over, you hope there's a brother that pulls you over because maybe you can come to some common ground. But it doesn't always take that happen that way. And then you show up in the legal system and you hope there's somebody who can identify with you and understand and can see the injustices or circumstances surrounding your situation. So as a woman,
Yes.
it's vastly different than the male experience, but definitely can identify with that clip.
Wayne Elliott, you work in a corporate environment. You have to go through and many of these high, buildings that you have gone through as you have meandered your way through your corporate life. Wayne, did this somehow ever spoken to your experiences over these number of years that you have been working in corporate America?
Yeah, and just for clarity of what my background is, so I've worked for the same company for 29 years.
Yeah.
So straight out of college, I went to work for J.P. Morgan Chase, and within that context, in each decade, what that kind of video spoke to me was, as I was preparing for this, that there have been many times where I've been the only black person in the room, only black male in the room, and in most cases have been either ignored because people don't know what my role is, and what I'm doing, or there's been an assumption about the level that I have within the organization. So what was interesting to see at the end when he comes out, most people will focus on the judge's robe. What I saw for the first time in seeing that video was "In God We Trust." And the way I kind of view this now is that I've experienced in every decade, in some way, shape, or form, either I'm the only person and there are not a lot of other people like me, not a lot of other black qualified candidates for these roles, or I'm suspicious of this individual. Going through stores, going to Woodbury Commons and being in Ferragamo, and people looking at, kind of, you saw the two guards in the stores kind of in the mirror where he was going. So I've experienced that in the corporate environment, as well as trying to purchase things to be a good corporate citizen so I can represent myself in the firm.
Interesting. Dr. Ball, did that clip speak to you in any way? Can you relate to it in any way? What has been your experience? What's your story in that?
One of the things for me that I oftentimes think about is it says in crisis management that when a person has been displaced from their geographical locations, their familiar spaces and places, that you generally give them a map of where they are now in relationship to where they belong and where they're coming from. And so for those of us in education, in corporate world, who oftentimes have to negotiate spaces and people that may not look like us, that may not talk like us, that may not understand us, there's oftentimes a deep sense of isolation, a deep sense of of being a foreigner in some ways. And even when you've worked hard to get there, you always just looked at with a degree of suspiciousness that makes you even feel, even when you should be feeling excited that you're sitting in that seat, it creates a deep sense of loss that you're sitting there and mourning. And even as
you should be celebrating.
Even if you should be celebrating, you're mourning and you're looking and you can't really be fully focused on what you're doing, because race, as I oftentimes say, race is always in the room. Even if you're not naming it, it's always in the room.
Interesting. Dr. Moore, talk to me. Did that clip relate to you? Could you relate to it? Did it resonate in any way?
Absolutely. As I watch that clip, and even as we're dealing with the harsh realities that the birth defect of racism and prejudice still exists, how I've been framing things is I understand, unfortunately, that there's no such thing for me as an unarmed black man when the color of my skin is considered a weapon. For me, I deal with the reality that wherever I go, I am going to be judged really by the color of my skin and not the content of my character. That's reality. I understand that, before they hear my credentials, they're going to assume that I have a criminal record. So that's the assumption that I go in. One story or experience jumped out at me as soon as you started asking the question was, in my role, in the work that I do, I go in and I train police officers, first responders, and in one recent experience, I went in the room, to be the lead trainer, and when I got into the room, someone else had opened the session, and I sat in the back of the room, and they brought the book to me, put it in front of me, and the person said, of course, it was a white person. The person said, "I guess we're waiting for our instructor to come in."
Wow. Wow. Very good part to point to pause there as we widen it. So as you've seen, viewers, as you've seen here, everyone on this around my dinner table can relate to this somehow. For me, it had to do with the two business schools that I've attended, where I was the only Black person in the classroom. I was the only Black person at Columbia, only Black person in my classroom at Fordham. And for me, it was a challenge, it was an issue, because as we traveled, I had to deal with that because I was not used to it. Growing up in a predominantly Black country, being the country of Jamaica, of my birth. But as I open this discussion back up, I want to go directly to where our intention is today, and that is empowering our young Black men, empowering them, because ultimately this is an empowerment conversation. Friends around my dinner table. So we have seen this. You have had it. All of you here are now parents, fathers, and mother. How do you have the conversation? And I start with G. Wayne on this one. G. Wayne, so you have gone through 29 years of corporate world. You have gone through Ivy League education, Brown University, Columbia University. Yet, as you sit in the room, you have seen the suspicion of, does he belong here? What is he doing here? As all you said earlier, he was even ignored in some of those sessions. You have young Gavri coming up. You have your daughter. Talk to us about, again, empowerment, those who are looking on for notes and for some learning. How do you have the conversation, Wayne, about this conversation of race, of the reality that you have faced? How do you prepare Gavri for what he will face later?
So I think I alluded to this last week, that it's not one conversation, but it's multiple conversations, and it adjusts based on age.
Mm-hmm.
So I can recall having conversations about, if you hear the N word being used, here are the steps you take. If you're in a situation in a classroom or an environment where people are being harmful to you, here's what you need to do. So if you heard the N word and you heard it in middle school, the conversation was, here are the three things you have to do. You have to, one, let the person know, if I hear it again, I'm going to report you. Two, report them if you hear it again. And the third thing is, if you hear it one more time, punch them in the nose. Like, don't hesitate. Just
okay. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, warn them first. Good. If you've done it, you said yes. I told you not to. Third, punch them in the nose. All right. So talk us through that. So, has Gavri ever had to do that? A 1, 2, or 3?
So in middle school, we got to step 2, and the solution, and I give the school credit.
Yes.
The vice principal was very, the director of discipline had kept his eye on Gav in particular, and when the situation occurred, his mode of operation was, how do we bring all parties together to reconcile, right? So he invited us and the family of the kid to school to have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting, because when I grew up, we never got to the administration. It was, I heard the word and it was straight. But being first and foremost a Christian, the objective is always to focus on reconciliation.
Okay.
So that's what happened in middle school. In high school, much more prevalent. So the conversation changed the older we get, and the conversation changed to, because obviously you can't be beating up or getting in the fights all the time, but how do we make sure that the system around you is not supporting it? And unfortunately, where we are, it was. So we literally we had the conversation on Sunday night last week, and on Monday night we were on a conference call with the school board about the N word being used. So stages, right? The other thing is you as he got older, and the conversation was around the police. Here's how you engage if you're stopped by the police. There's like this magic age where you start looking like a young adult, and the fear factor kicks in. I mean, literally, he was jogging to a place to the gym in the neighborhood, and I was starting to get a little anxious. And I've never been anxious before.
So he was. How old was he about this time?
He's 17 now.
70. So it was just okay.
So from the adjustment over the past few years has been to, if you're confronted with the police, here's how you're supposed to respond.
Okay,
So
we're going to get.
So it's
We're going to get to the police type of discussion. We're going to get to the police discussion soon. I want to get really what you're preparing. So, particularly at the school level, I'm going to go to Dr. Ball. Dr. Raj, how have you ever had to deal with that at school? And as an administrator, what are the levers that you have to pull when that happens? When race clearly comes front and center for you to deal with as an assistant principal?
Well, the work that I do, and in the context is everything. And so Wayne is in a Sioux community where is his son in a true sense of the word. A lot of folks may not look like him. I'm an administrator in inner city amongst the poor communities. But one of the things that we've had to do time and time again is really probe our teachers' working assumptions about the beliefs that they have about our children, and the expectations that they have about them in terms of what they can and cannot do and how they are treated. And sometimes it's a very painful, and I've sat down with teachers, black female teachers, male white teachers, who say really inappropriate things about the kids that the teachers find extraordinarily offensive. And I've pull up chairs in my office and have them sit down together. And to go back to Glenn Singleton's point about speaking your truth, to say that it really cuts me to the core when I heard you describe or address or spoke to our black and brown boys in that kind of way. And so part of the educational system really is, and it's not just using the N-word. It's not just, name calling. It's the idea of, watching the three black boys sit in the back of the room and not really pull them in. It's having, the Latino kids sit on one side and the black kids sit on the other side. It's about the choice of literature that we choose. It's the type of problems that we propose in our math class, and the reading selections in our ELA classes. All of those things we have to look at. That's why I oftentimes talk about our curriculum.
Yes. One of the sensitivity that one has to have is, for me, is, as you said, Dr. Ball, is how we deal with teachers. I recall my 12-year-old son teacher sent home a letter for me to sign, or a note for me to sign, saying he was misbehaving in class. And I asked my son what happened, and he said, "Dad, me and two friends were just talking. She looked down, saw us talking, and she was just upset about it." So I asked him, and he had repeated the exact phrase. And I instead of signing the letter, I wrote the teacher a note. "Please advise if there's a problem for my son to be speaking with his friends. Were they speaking loudly? Were they giving trouble? Was there a problem with them speaking? What is the school's policy about kids speaking to their friends?" she called and said, she basically tried to explain it away, but said, never mind about the signing. That's fine. I'll take care of it. I'll speak to them again. And that said to me quick early that I will engage my sons in terms of what they're facing and not quickly just say, okay, if the teacher says it, that means it's correct. So A, I did not sign it. B, I wrote the teacher questioning all these things that my son said happened. And basically she conceded that what she wanted to decide was really irrelevant. It was not correct. So as we see at play there is, what do we start doing at home? How do we start empowering the children at home as they go out to school? Because again, the first area. Dr. Morrow, any point on that one? I come to you, Wayne.
Well, for me, of course, you heard, I have a 3-month-old baby girl. So,
yes.
I mean, this conversation it's already stress provoking, so to speak. So I'm actually listening in to draw from your expertise and, your journey that you've had. But the one thing I know that has been beneficial for me and that I'm going to push with my daughter is educate yourself, empower yourself, so you earn the right to be heard. And for me, that's what's been most helpful in the midst of all the racism and the prejudice that I've experienced. Education has earned me a right to sit at the table. And when I get into that room, despite all of the stuff that's happening, I'm commanding that room. I'm letting them know I belong here. And for me, it's also a way of saying, I'm kind of sticking it to you, so to speak.
Yeah.
You have to sit and you have to listen to me. So again, I'm drawing from your experiences, but I know I'm going to encourage her. Please educate yourself, empower yourself to be at the highest level so you can sit at the table, because the dish best served is standing in front of the ones who don't want you there, and they have to sit and listen to you for 8 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours. So for me, that's what's been helpful.
Let me swing it over to Wayne. Wayne, you had a point on that?
Yeah, I was just gonna make the point that to Dr. Ball's comments around him having to educate Black and white teachers in a predominantly Black and brown school, how much more so in a school with predominantly white teachers in an environment that does not have a significant diversity. There's a certain level of expectation that administrators and teachers have around people that don't look like the majority, number one. And number two, there's a higher likelihood that if the discipline is going to happen against the Black and brown kids in the class. And to that point, so how do we empower? So
yes. Take your time with that, because I need to go into how do we empower against that.
I'll give you 2 examples. So one, my daughter, we got a call from a teacher, in tears essentially, because she had chastised my daughter Naila for talking in class. And when now if you know my daughter's like she's never seen a grade lower than an A from the time, and she's a sophomore in high school. And when she confronted my daughter about why she was talking to the young lady, what my daughter said was the girl had just come from another country, and she was struggling with how fast the teacher was talking in English. So she was explaining to her what was happening. So the woman's first inclination was discipline, and then she heard she had to walk it back, right? That's number one. Number two is I have, from an empowerment perspective, I have, both my son and my daughter made sure that regardless of circumstances, that they have to speak up. So recently, when we were talking about curriculum and books and that are being used in class, they were reading a book by Ray Bradbury that had a lot of, calling blacks darkies and nigger and on the regular. And my daughter's like, why are we reading this book when there's so many other books that we could read that can meet the point? So didn't talk to me, didn't talk to my wife Michelle. She just sent off an email to the teacher saying, here's why we shouldn't have read this book and we should have used a different book. And if we were going to read this book, you should have set it up so for the whole class to understand the context is why we're studying this particular book. All based on the years of discussion we've had about making sure that they voice their opinion and how they feel. The third thing I will say that I would encourage, particularly Dr. Moraes with a 3-month-old baby girl, and for any parent, is that it is incumbent upon the father, whether they're with the mother or not, that every time there's a parent-teacher conference, that they're present. Not only present.
That's a big point. That's a big point. Yeah.
Not only present, but they have something to say. So in our case, it is usually I'm usually the I look like this. I don't smile. I'm not. I'm just listening to make sure that I can understand whether the parents, the teachers have my children's best interest at heart. And so I tell all guys, whether they're with the woman or not, that they have to be present, because the expectation of particularly black children is that at a minimum, the mother may show, but they don't expect the father to show up, and much less show up and have something to say. So it's critical that we do that.
That's a big point. The big point. So we're going to lock that one in. Point one or number two, we must all show up, particularly brothers. So remember, it's part of the empowerment. This is our Courageous Conversation Empowerment Series. We show up to all school activities. We show up. I will be there. And you're so correct. I showed up at one of my sons' is like a reading where they wrote poems or these stories, and parents came in to read it. And something happened when I was there. There were about 3 or 4 black boys in the class, and I was the only father of my black son that showed up. And for me, immediately as I read my son's story, I went over to the other 2 black boys because I wanted them to feel, I wanted them to know that they're seen. And I made a lot of, I made much of them because it stood out to my mind that they were there and I wanted them to read. I'm going to swing a little bit, guys, and I'm going to go to another aspect of growing up. And I'm going to set this one up. It is from a quotation from a video, TikTok, that was all over on social media. And it was from an 18-year-old, Cameron Welsh. He learned to memorize by age 11, note that, age 11, a list of warnings his mom had given him. I'm going to tell you some, and you're going to tell me if there's more to be added. Here's some of the lists. Here's some of the warnings that his mom, an 11-year-old boy, memorized. That's to memorize. Do not put your hands in your pockets. Don't put your hoodie on. Don't be outside without a shirt on. Don't be out too late. Don't touch anything you're not buying. Never leave the store without a receipt or a bag, even if it's just a gum. Never make it look like there's an altercation between you and someone else. Don't drive with a wife beater on. Don't ride with your music too loud. Don't stare at a white woman. Don't drive with your do-rag on. If a cop stops you randomly and starts questioning you, you don't talk back, just compromise. If you ever get pulled over, put your hands on the dashboard, ask if you can get your license and registration. This is something. These are lists of warning that an 11-year-old memorized. Question for you, my friends sitting around my dinner table. 1, are there anything else that you'd add to this? And two, have any of you had, or when you were given these warnings at 11 years old? I'll go to the lady first before I come over to you. Denise,
I
whenever give
mean,
you a warning?
yeah, it is the you know, always smile and seem least threatening as possible. You know, my daughter is almost 6 feet tall, so she has to be mindful that she looks like she's looming over somebody, and they can feel intimidated by that. So she, you know, you got to keep your distance. You know, be relaxed so that they'll relax, and all those things to make other people feel uncomfortable in your environment. It's like this is my environment too, but I have to know these rules so so you feel comfortable, and so that there won't be a negative outcome on me. So yeah, there's
So
definitely
you know about Dr. Moore, you were going to say something.
Yeah, just want to highlight one of the things about the do rag. We were laughing about this earlier about my wearing a suit and always looking
Yes. Yeah.
business wise, but
Yes,
it's intentional because here's what my mom taught me. She said, "Dress the way you want to be treated." And because I know that there are all these things against me, I know when I'm going into a setting, I'm going to dress, to the max, because already I'm at a disadvantage just by the color of my skin and because of my height. So those are two things that I know I'm up against. I'm a short guy. I'm an African American guy, but I believe that if I dress the part, if I dress like I own the room, then people take a different look at me. So that's part of the reason why, for the most part, I'm usually
All right.
dressed up with a tie, because I know when I get in that room, they're expecting me to not know how to speak. But if I dress as if like, listen, I own this establishment, I'm the owner of this place, and you're gonna hear me. So for me, that's been my
Interesting.
how I do things.
I'm going to come back to that very point you've made. I'm going to zero there, but let me just hear what's going on. Wayne, you have a quick point before I go to
Yeah,
Dr. Rod?
yeah. Only that the one of the things that might be missing from the list is I didn't hear always have your identification with you. Number one.
Okay, so you'd add that to the list. Always have your ID.
Yeah. And the other piece, and I've been like meditating on this like all day, and Michelle and I did our walk this morning, and the premise of this was around are we educating our boys to thrive or to be, I mean, to survive or to thrive. And just I just want to be like clear on this. There's nothing wrong with having that list. Like, it is
Okay.
imperative. It is imperative because we control what we can control. But I recognize that my filter has been a filter where I could walk down the street with my grandmother, and these white people would say, "Hey Marie, how you doing?" And she would have to say, "Hey Mrs. Weekly, how are you doing?" It was just a different way of being raised, and it was more of a survival mechanism to have to do all these things as opposed to being empowered. So I just want to make sure that as a black male father, that
Yes.
I was brought to tears today because I had all these conversations with my mother, and my father was they were divorced when I was 12, but we have a better relationship today than we did when I was growing up. And she made the comment today that I've received two birthday cards from my I've received lots of birthday cards, but two in particular that I keep in front of me in my bathroom. Every morning when I wake up, I have these two cards, and I see them when I get up to brush my teeth before I go off to work. And one card says, "Son, you're unstoppable," and the other one says, "Son, you were born to be amazing." Now, I'm a grown man, and my father sent me these cards. I got the "Son, you were born to be amazing" this year, and the "Son, you're unstoppable" 3 years ago. I use that to affirm myself. So the power of the "don't do these things" is one thing. That's to keep you alive to the best of your ability that you can control. But the
Yeah.
other thing that we got to make sure that we do is that we empower our kids to understand who they are from a like we're God's chosen people a royal priesthood that we got to empower ourselves.
So yeah, I heard that. Somebody just said Zadia else just said, I come to you, Dr. Roger, after this. We shouldn't have to change how we act and how we dress to make a certain group of people more comfortable, while that same group can do whatever they want and wear whatever they want without the same judgment passed on to them. The question I've always had, and Dr. Roger, don't lose the point. The question I've always had with this list is, and you've touched it, Wayne, and again, you're born here. I think Dr. Morris will, Roger and I came in to this country as immigrants. And for me, when I see this list, I see survival. Right. Something about the list make me resentful. I literally resent the list. I don't know how and when I'll be teaching my sons these things on this list or coaching them through it. However, Wayne just said it's important to do it while trying to empower them, right? I have more points on that, but let me go to Dr. Roger. Come on, Roger. What's your input on this one? You're on mute.
Sound. I don't want to be or sound oppositional or counter narrative.
Dr. Roger, you know around my kitchen table you can say anything. Come on, do it.
But doesn't that just make you mad?
Yes, it does.
Doesn't that just make you makes you burn?
Yes, it does.
Blood boil. Like, I admit, I am not going to tell my kids. I'm not going to tell them, don't wear a hoodie, because I know that they're inherently good and children of God. And the point that Zeta make was exactly the point that I was going to make.
Yes.
We have contorted our beauty. We have contorted our skin color. We have contorted our fashionista and our way of dressing. And we have contorted ourselves so much into submission that is remnants of racism, to say I am no threat to you, and therefore I'm going to do the things that you are not even doing so that I could please you.
Yes.
Or I am going to bleach my skin so that I look like you. I am going to straighten my nose and straighten my hair and put in blue what do you call it?
Contact lens, yeah.
Contact lens, just to mimic and to simulate you. Look, I want for my black boys and my brown boys, I want for them to fling on a bow tie and throw on a hoodie over their head. I want for them to be fully humanized. And I don't know, I admit, I don't know if I have that kind of courage, frankly, to really to do some of those things, because I am not doing it for myself. And I just wouldn't teach. What I will tell them to do is I will tell them to conduct themselves with respect and with dignity. I will tell them to walk with their heads up high. I would never fault anyone for going through that checklist. Why would I want to, tell my 11-year-old who can't drive, doesn't have a license, about how to, it seems so sad. And again, for me, I want to go where the problem is. Our problem is not with our boys wearing the hoodie, because they will not wear a hoodie and they will still be killed. They will say yes sir, and they'll still be with their faces on the pavement. They will do everything. And again, it's in some ways I really want to go back to this point, and then I'm going to shut up. We seek to control that which we can, but I want to be clear to my brothers and sisters. It is one way for us to try to control something that is uncontrollable. Telling them to do X, Y, Z is no guarantee that they will come home alive.
And therein lies my issue with the list. But I wanted to see what's going on here, right? What's going on here is there's a prism through which the immigrants, myself, Roger, looks, because we weren't brought up with that type of a social structure. There's another prism that Wayne has come through, and Denise, and of course Maurice, as a son of a mother who is basically trying to protect him. So I'm going to challenge something about it. Denise, you want to jump in?
Yeah.
Because there's something before you go, Denise. There's a comment that was made, all right, by Nisha. Interesting comment, Denise. On the contrary, she says, you spoke of your daughter being 6 feet. Mm-hmm. On the contrary, 6 foot tall white women in corporate America wear their killer heels for business meetings. Two different worlds. So on one end, we almost have to dumb ourselves down so as not to be threatening in the eyes of someone else, while on the other hand, another person, another race can wear their heels high and tall and proud.
So let me just say, when I talk to my daughter about, if you want to call it a list, her list, it's not really a list, but when I talk to my daughter about such things, it's in the context of so that she can have an awareness and understanding of how someone else is perceiving her. It is in no means so that she can fit in their box.
Okay.
There are those lists out there, like you said. The young lady gave her son that checklist. For me and my daughter, it's just understand how they see you. And if I can just backtrack a second to the empowerment thing, one thing is to make sure that they understand at an early age the system, if you will. My daughter in high school, of course, she's in college now at a PWI, a predominantly white institution, so that's a whole nother set of issues. But in high school, where she was also a minority, she had to deal with the issue of fighting for visual representation. She's an artist. She's a theater major, and so she was an actor at the time, and she had to fight just to be able to have her own hair on stage, because when she got this part, the original part was for a white woman, and they came out with the wig, and she was like, why do I have to wear this? And just to be able to fight, she was heartbroken that she had to fight to just have her hair as part of it. Why do I have to do this? And people gave the whole conversation, because you're an actor and you play these roles, and this is just another role. And she's like, no, why do I have to wear a straight long wig and try to fit into a white person role? Why can't somebody who's Black in the audience see themselves in me on this stage? And she had to understand the process. And it's interesting that he spoke about, earn your place at the table. There are some tables that we have a right to simply because, one, I'm paying taxes in this mug, and you need to understand that it's just not going to go down this way. Some things there's a procedure and a process to make sure claims are made properly, that disciplinary actions for teachers who are being discriminatory are taking place. And so it's important to make sure that our children know these steps. They know how to keep records of conversations that they've had with somebody in case they need to be pulled up, so it's not your word against it. They need to know these various things about the process so that they can be successful in them. And if, there's a big chance that they could do all the steps and still not come out, come out fair or on their side. But it's important that's done for the next person coming along. And it's interesting now, because my daughter's going into her senior year in college. But now, during this entire situation in our society, there's like a huge social media chain about how racist her high school was. And old students are coming back and saying, this was my experience and this was my experience. And she can now say, you remember when I said I had that problem and I went to the principal, and there's a record now because she stood up then. So it's important that we empower our children to know the processes within that they're working, and the ones that they have a right to, because they're citizens of that locale, of that state, of this nation. And there are just certain things that we have to begin to demand. So the list that she follows, the list that is out there, is just so that she can be aware. It's not that she's grown now, so she follows what she wants, but an awareness of how people perceive you is important, so that you kind of have the upper hand, if you will, because now you know how to proceed into a situation. So
in case you're just tuning in, welcome to the Courageous Conversation Part 2 of what we started last Sunday. And today we're talking about raising Black men empowered to survive or to thrive. And we are in the middle of a very interesting and important conversation, because it's a conversation that is critical, germane, central, the nucleus to this conversation, which is how the talk we're having, the things that we're telling our kids, is it a survival technique, or is it empowering them to thrive against the backdrop that it is what is perceived, and many times what's not there? What I've heard so far, if I can do a little wrap before I come into you, Dr. Moore, before I move to something else, what I've heard so far, Wayne has said, it's important to have the talk, because he's saying the society is looking on, the society in which we exist. Roger is saying, which are more on that side. I find this list objectionable, obscene, and really it makes my skin crawl. That's a feeling I have reading it. However, then he's saying she has raised her daughter to be aware of it while challenging it and pushing the status quo in order to thrive. And I find where there's something there of a balance. In other words, when my son leaves the house, I need to say to them, because recently one of them wanted to walk home from school with his friends. Again, we live in a relatively cool neighborhood, but we're like, not yet. Not it. I guess not it, maybe because we need to have a talk. Dr. Maurice, go ahead. But by the way, let me just remind the viewers, please share this. If you want somebody to participate in this conversation, share this with them right now. And also, coming up about 8:45, we're going to be launching a major initiative that you're going to want to be a part of. Dr. Maurice, you are brimming to say much.
Yes, absolutely. Just piggybacking on what Lady Denise said about the list, and here's what I've come to realize. I am an immigrant, came when I was really small, as a young boy. But here's what I've learned, and I've come to the reality that part of my job is to teach by example. In other words, there are communities who that I'm going in, they've not been exposed to African Americans, immigrants, Black Americans who are educated. All they see is do-rags, pants sagging, and going into those settings. I've just been, I'll use the word privilege, to be able to model for them that, wait a minute, what you thought about us is being modeled differently here. So I wanted to make that point. Like Denise said, it's not that you're conforming. It's not that you are rescinding who you are or taking a back seat. But you work hard to get at the table so that now we can be educators, not only for ourselves, but for those of us, for those who are coming behind us. So I want us to see it in that perspective, that we have a responsibility beyond ourselves. And I know sometimes people will say, well, it's not my job, to model. It's not my job to be a role model. In some senses, it is. And sometimes the only exposure other people will get to the other side of us is by seeing us. Does that make sense? So
yes,
I've been in settings where you could see their eyes pop open because they were expecting someone that can speak. They were expecting, someone that with a do-rag, and and I've even heard comments that, wow, we've not seen a Black person. And I'm saying, these are comments I've heard. We've not seen a Black person so eloquent, right? And I don't think myself to be that eloquent of a speaker like some of you amazing panelists. But I'm saying to us, let's not shy away from the responsibility that with what we've been given, right? The expertise, the exposure, that we're going to be thrust in areas where we're going to have to model something different for them.
Let me take that on. Give me a second, Wayne. I want to take on something there, right? Because again, we know this is brimming, right? And that's what this conversation is about, guys. One of the things that when Maurice said, dress the part, walk in, I smiled. And I'm going to introduce you to a little quiz right now, right? If we're going to do a little quiz with you. And the quiz is simply called, Who Am I? I'll name something that happened and you just simply tell me, who am I? All right? Who am I? This is for the panel. If those of you viewing, you want to guess, go ahead. I'll give you a little minute to guess. Our technical director can find a music for this. But here's a question. Who am I? In my previous job, I was pulled over 7 times by the police. In one of the stops, my car was surrounded by 4 different police cars. Despite my current very prominent position, I was pulled over by the police while driving last year. In the past 5 months of this year, 2020, I was pulled over for not putting on my turn signal early enough to change lanes. Who am I? A 31-year-old lawyer in Brooklyn, New York. B, 54-year-old member of Congress in DC. C, 46-year-old television reporter in Atlanta, Georgia. I'll watch what our viewers say, but let me go on. Dr. Ball, A, B, or C?
I was gonna give you another option, racial.
Well, I was going to say all the above.
That's right. It's all
I was
the
going to say
above.
B, all the above. But I want to give you guys to get out of this easy. But go ahead. A, B, or C, Doc?
I'll take anyone.
B? Okay, Dr. Moore, what you said? The 31-year-old lawyer in Brooklyn.
All the above.
No, you got to pick one.
I'll go against Dr. Ball. He chose B, so I'll choose C, and I'll leave A for somebody else.
Okay. Claudia Bartley says TV reporter in Georgia. What say you, G. Wayne?
B.
B?
Yep.
And what say you, Denise Hill?
I mean, I'm in DC. I know how they do, so I'm gonna say DC.
Good DC.
What's that, B?
Yep.
B? I think I should have put in all of the above. Well, we only have one lone person here who could have been correct too. Susie Dot said it's A. Actually, it is a 54-year-old member of Congress, Tim Scott, GOP senator, who said up to this year, walking and driving while black in DC, for him, he was still pulled over by the police. So as you said that, Dr. Moore, I thought to myself, not even the dressing, not even the position can make us immune to look through a filter of sickening racism. This senator, Tim Scott, and I transcribed the interview he had with CNN just on Thursday. He said, I've been pulled over 18 times in the past few years. This year alone, I was pulled over for just not putting on my thing in time to the officer. I'm going to move to the question of empowering our young men.
Can I just
go ahead, Wayne? Go ahead, Wayne, man. Go ahead.
I just want to be clear on my point.
Sure.
Around why the list is so important.
Please.
There's a tendency for West Indians and actually people in tri-state to view life through a lens that is much more diverse than it is domestically throughout the country. There are real people out there who are bottom line racist, not kind of, sort of, not like, there are people who got their guns on the back of their truck, drive around and look for folks and harass them. And the reason why I emphasize control what you can control, along with empowering and having a strong sense of self, is because to the point about what you wear, some people see a black man in a suit and are hateful. Like, how's this Negro? They killed soldiers returning from war while they were wearing their uniforms because they hated the fact that this Negro was wearing the gear. So I just want to emphasize that point.
Honestly,
is that it's about the protective mechanism, particularly for people who grew up in an environment where it didn't matter who you knew. These folks, and you were outnumbered and outgunned, that you needed to have a way to make sure that at least, not that you're kowtowing, but that you're aware of your surroundings.
Somebody make a note here. Angela Perusa says, if it's not us, it's them. However, we're doing an internal review right now, an internal discussion, because end of the day, among three of us, we have we have 5 young men growing up, and of course we have 2 young ladies among the 5 of us at our kitchen table. And I want to really move to empowering. So in light of that, what are you saying? And I'd cut you off earlier. Now is your time.
Yep.
What are you saying to Gavri vis-a-vis his interaction with the police?
So we've had this discussion multiple times, actually, and we're also having it with my daughter. Is that it's yes or no, sir? How can I help you? It is not, as I heard the deputy Westchester commissioner, who's black, say yesterday, it is be compliant. We'll deal with right, wrong, or indifferent after the fact. My objective is to make sure that he gets home safe. Period. Right. So it's be compliant. And from a and I know people are like, why do we have to be that way? Because you have to be that way because you cannot overcome 450 years of systemic racism. In 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks. Like there wasn't like I think about how crazy this is. The world has responded to the knee on the neck.
Yes.
Not to 2 weeks prior,
Right.
the person being shot.
Yeah, not to Breonna Taylor.
And not to the white woman calling the police on an African-American male. It was the knee on the neck.
Yes.
So to think that we're going to be able to flip the switch and make that happen in a week is crazy to me, number one. So the message to my family, and
to Gavri.
And it's funny, we were talking the other night in preparation about, do you tell your kids how to react when someone's breaking into your house? And and someone said, no, we don't have that conversation. Like I've had that conversation, and I'm prepared if someone breaks into my house, and my kids know what my thoughts are. So from a discussion perspective, we talk about all this stuff just because it's my filter, my mold.
Okay.
Can I jump in?
So from an empowerment perspective, here's what we do in our house.
Go ahead.
So from the time that they're little, we prayed with them every morning. We pray with them at night. Number one. Number two, we speak. My wife speaks a blessing over them every morning. It starts with that. Number two, we've been, everything that I do comes from the filter of being Christian. So the context I try to view things through is the lens of being a Christian. So I've involved my kids in Bible quizzing, all things church ministry related. Number three, I've attempted to, but they're almost grown now, for them to be involved. It's not simply about them. It's about everybody else coming behind you. So Gabby started a Black student union at his predominantly white high school, 3 years ago. And now it's just jumping off because of all the stuff that's happening. Number 3 or 4, is as a parent, I have a board of directors to help me, like Dr. Murray said that he's listening to us. I have like 5 guys that I go to when I've got situations that I'm not familiar with or how to deal with, that say, hey, here are the things that you need to do with your kids. Here's how you discipline your kids. Here's how to raise boys. Here's what you do when I don't want to get into like a side discussion around relationships. Here's how
we're gonna get there, because we're gonna get there. Denise is here for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Can I jump?
I just try to make sure that we're having multiple conversations. And the last thing I will say is, again, it's multiple conversations over time.
Okay.
As Gavri is now 17 and about to leave, my father advised me 6 months ago. He said, look, like at this point in time, all you're trying to do is guide them and help them make right decisions. He's already 17. He's about to be a man. So now it's about we try to have dedicated time, intentional time where he can talk to me and I can listen.
Roger?
Yeah, I was going to, and for me, Brother Wayne and the rest of the panel, for me, it is a wondering. It is a wondering. I wonder, what are the consequences? Are there residual consequences of this kind of teaching to our young people and to our kids in terms of how they also internalize and interpret the messages that they receive about who they are and how they're viewed by the outside world? It's a wondering for me that you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do that. How do we remain steadfast and know for sure that those messages are being, and I wonder myself, for me as a father, about how my young boys, how my young men, my own kids are internalizing this message about who they are in the grandest scheme of things. Are there are there some trauma that
vis-a-vis, right?
yeah,
Vis-a-vis, yeah, they're
yeah,
white friends.
right, and right, because juxtapositioning
Precisely.
the message that they receive, how they have to be in time and space, and the cavalier approach and attitude that their friends walk through this world with. I just
Which is
wonder.
what I struggle with, Dr. Roger. I really struggle with it, Denise Maurice. Because again, I hear clearly what Wayne says, and I know it's guided and guarded by, again, his Christian principles, his filters, and filter of growing up in an African American socialized community. But let me tell everybody watching now, this part of this conversation is not only for Dr. Maurice to learn, but for me to learn, because I found myself not fully equipped to have the conversation with my sons as they approached me a few weeks ago and asked, Dad, why are the cops doing it only to black men? I've never seen them do it to white men. Why? These are sons who play with white kids every day, Indian kids, Asian kids in our little nice little community. And so I find I struggle with telling them the things that might be okay for that boy that you play with every day, but for you, it's a different reality. I find that I struggle with that. And I find that as I try to impart that to them, there's a quizzical look on their faces. It's like, but why shouldn't I be wearing, Zachary, why shouldn't I be wearing durag? But the other boys are wearing it, not durag, hoodie. They're wearing it just because we have a hoodie group. Everybody in their school, there are about 5 of them are basketballers or 11 of them, and they all wear it. Why should I not wear it, Dad? What about me that I shouldn't wear it? So that's where, as I have the conversation, the point you're making, Roger, is what I struggle with. How much of his self-identity, who he is, I may be also affecting, hurting, as he's trying to become into his own man. Again, understanding all the things that Wayne said. But there's a punctuation sign I have next to it. Because can it affect all that they can become? Because early in their life, I'm telling them, you be careful. What one will get away with, you won't get away with. You follow what I'm saying? So it's a question that I'm seeking to understand myself. Maurice.
Yeah, as I'm listening, what came to my mind is the word resilience, right?
Yeah.
And, I dare to say, and I'm being hopeful that those of us watching, those of us on the panel, that our children are resilient because of what we've taught them at home. So it doesn't matter what they say on the outside. Education first begins at home, and you who are parents longer than I have been. So and I speak of me, my internal working model, who I am, how I view the world, how I view society, how I view church, how I view people. It's been shaped by what has been taught to me by my parents at home, my single parent mom, and by the church. So, I want to speak that, I see a lot of the comments about, some of the things that we're saying, but it comes back to the grassroots level is, what are we doing at home to make sure that we're building resilient children that no matter what they are exposed to, you can tell me I am nothing. You can tell me, I'm small, but because of what has been deposited in me, Dr. Ball, when I look at you and Lady Denise and G. Wayne and Ricardo and G. Wayne and Lady Denise, without even knowing your children, I would dare to speculate and assume that your children are resilient, not because of what they've been taught on the outside, but because of what you've taught them at home. So I want to stress that point that, for me, And, I see a lot of comments about the clothing. I heard a comment about massa and submitting to massa. Listen, it doesn't matter what massa says about me. I am not responding to that. It's not what they say about me, is what I answer to. And the reason why I have this resilience, even though I'm short, I'm black, I'm an immigrant, even though I have to do certain things to get in the door, when I get in that door, I am so resilient. I am so confident. Why? It's what has been deposited in me at the grassroots level, meaning at home, at church. So I just want to put that out there. This conversation really is not about, it is somewhat about clothing. It is somewhat about dressing. It is somewhat about, your appearance. But really, I want to put the responsibility back to us as parents. I want to put the responsibility back to us as a church. I want to put the responsibility back to us as a community. Because as I said, I realize I have a responsibility to be an educator, not just in academics, but an educator in life. So I really want to be clear on that.
Noted.
I can say whatever Massa want to say. They can do it. Of course, we could get into, our, security and all that. But I really want to put, we're focusing a lot on them. What do they say? What do they think of us? But
I understand that
responsibility back on me as a parent, as a leader in the community, as a youth leader, as a former educator, as a therapist. You know what? I'm going to make you resilient that no matter how they stretch you, no matter how they cuss you, you'll be so fortified on the inside that I don't care what they say to you. You're going to stand strong.
I have a couple of points to say about that, Dr. Mark. Yes, I get the resilience, and of course at home, and we must teach and try to inculcate and engender that resilience in our children. And I also get from the conversation, also getting the feedback from those watching about there, right? But there's a fact, though, that in light of what you're teaching at home, when we step out with all of what you've been taught, you can be running away from the police and they shoot you. Notice, running away, and you're perceived as imminent threat away. There's another thing about the resilience, Dr. Moore, which I love because it's important. But we also should understand, and again, this is a conversation, colleagues, you're digging in, that how one child may respond to an external stimuli, an external pressure, another child may crumble at it. And to my mind, it may not just be a reflection of teaching resilience. It also, the child can respond differently. Each child will respond differently to certain things. So that when a police steps to me, and I'll share my own experience, and for those of you who saw my post on Wednesday morning that my run was interrupted by the police, I'll go to it next. But while a police stopping me does not intimidate me, for another person, it creates trauma. And we have to engage that reality. For one person, that's traumatic. For another person, it's just annoyance. What are they doing? So the resilience points is critical. We get that, very important internally. But there's something about the external stimuli, and one of you doctors can break that down. That happens. That can have a different impact on different children, actually live out of the same home. Denise, you have something to jump in on?
No, I'm gonna let you keep going.
That's fine.
Can I jump in on that about
it's our conversation, it's our table.
Really dealing with from a clinical perspective, right? It's what they call attachment model, and Dr. Ball, you can agree with this, right? And in attachment model, they teach what's called safety. How do you make sure a child feels safe, right? And they're the 3 C's, right? You connect with them in the way that they receive. For some children, it's verbal. For some children, it's touch. For some children, it's walking alongside them, right? So the more that you connect with your child is the more that they'll feel calm and cope. So I'm suggesting that I agree with many of the comments that each child is different. And this is from a clinical perspective, not from a parent perspective. But as you know your children individually, you connect with them in a manner that they can receive it and they can live it out, regardless of what their experience might be in terms of an external stimuli. So again, connect with your child in a way that's appropriate, that works for them. If it's touch, then it's touch. If it's verbal, it's verbal. If it's by doing, if it's by modeling, and that way you're establishing safety. When we say safety, we're talking more so from an emotional standpoint right now. We're talking more from a mental standpoint, that regardless of what happens on the outside, right? And of course, we're not touching the piece about killings and shooting. We're talking about it from a resiliency point framework, right? That I'm going to do all that I can, that no matter what the external stimuli is, you can always come back to home that has taught you and built a foundation in you that no matter what they call you, you don't have to respond to that. So again, I'm repeating myself. That a lot of times, we focus on the outside, them and they and what they're saying and what they're not doing and who's not doing one thing. But again, I want to take it on my shoulders. But you know what? My home will become the first classroom experience. My home will become the first church. My home will be the place where I'm going to have that conversation, so that once you're exposed to it, and there goes the clinical piece, it's like exposure therapy, right? And the exposure therapy, you put the person out little by little through conversation, through journeying with them. So I want to highlight that. And then the other thing I want to say is it's important that we be clear right now that when we get to whatever sitting, whatever table that we are, we remain grounded in who we are. So here's what I'll say. Regardless of where you put me, if I have on a suit, if I have on jeans, if I'm at wherever I am, if I'm at City Hall, at the core, I'm going to reveal who I am. So I want to be clear on that once I've gotten to sit at the table, my personality will always be my personality. I'm not going to bow. I'm not going to cower to certain people, right? But once I get in the door, by whatever means is necessary, if it's the way I dress, if it's the way that I speak, when I get in the room, my personality will remain the same. And we need to teach our kids that, right? We need to so empower them that, you don't stray from your personality. You don't stray from who you are. You don't bow to anyone. You do what you need to do to get in the door. But once you get in the door, you've earned the right to be heard, and they're going to sit and they're going to listen to you. They didn't want you there before, but now they got to listen to you. So that's how, for lack of a better word, I stick it to people is, you didn't want me here. Yeah. You didn't want me here. For 8 hours, you've got to listen to this black boy, this immigrant boy, and I'm going to teach you. And I don't care what you do with it, but I am sticking it to you by sitting at the table. And when I'm done, I take my bags, and in some cases, a lot of cases, you take my bags for me and you walk me to my car. The guy that you did not want to be here, you end up you pay me to.
What kind of Christian boy talking about?
And this is how I stick it to them, You're paying me.
Preacher.
You didn't want me here, but you pay me, you provide lunch for me, you walk me to the door, you call me. Preacher. Anyhow, I'm done.
Preacher, what kind of business you talk about sticking it to?
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, that's what happens when I bring two preachers here. And they end up with PhDs. Anyway, Wayne, go ahead.
I just want to talk about. I had a conversation with a colleague a few weeks back that there is, and this is to Dr. Ball's point about the impact of only speaking about what you can't do, and which is something that I constantly struggle with. And then I saw a comment from someone from our church about how every child is different and it takes multiple strategies. One of the things I've learned recently over the past few years is that my tendency is to lean towards more building a strong, tough mind, being able to overcome everything, because the context with which I was raised from a maleness perspective was driven by really two people, my football coach and my athletic director, Jewish guy from my high school, who really helped me get into college. And my other teacher, who was a black janitor at our school, who turned out to be like another father figure to me until, you know, I re-engaged with my father. So they were like my father figures, but really I was raised with my grandmother and my mom. So the mentality is like, I gotta raise my son and my daughter to be mentally tough. And to that point, having a Nichelle really in the house has allowed me to see my comments, my approach to raising the kids when I may have been overemphasizing the toughness and not listening enough. So one of the things I would say as parents, whether you're with the woman or not, is to be able to usually you'll get the feedback whether you want it or not. Like, maybe you should have like listened a little bit more. Maybe you shouldn't emphasize that point a little bit more. Maybe you should have gone this way. I'm saying that to say that we as parents, the guidebook, you can read all the books you want. You've got your filters. And what Nichelle has, what I've learned over the past few years, particularly within the context of every child being different, that it's very important to listen to your partner in helping to raise the child and making sure that you're not going too far to the you can't do this.
Yeah.
And being permissive. And when I thought about this morning, I thought of Jacob raising Joseph. Joseph was encouraged. Joseph learned everything. Joseph was empowered, and his brothers hated him. But Joseph was able to navigate through craziness over time to become a great man for the Lord. So just if we just listen to the people that are around us, that are there to support our children as well, to make sure that we're doing the right things for our kids, was the point.
Denise, I'm going to come to you soon to tell me a little more. So far, we've heard about resilience, because this is an empowerment conversation. Last week, we delved in all the issues that we're facing and dealing with. This week, we're very deliberate about the focus. It's empowering Black men. By the way, coming up at 9 o'clock, we'll be unveiling an amazing initiative that you're going to want to be a part of and to hear. So we're dealing having a tough mind, a strong mind, a mental grit to deal with. Because one of the things that make this critical is if we know we're going to deal with certain biases outside, it's clearly critical, Dr. Maurice and G. Wayne, that they have to develop a strong self of who they are, mental dexterity, a sense of resilience, also guided and girded by a word I'm going to call, and I'm going to ask a question. Denise, I'll go to you on this one. Talk about the value of love in the empowerment process.
You know,
value of love, the son, the daughter, knowing and feeling loved.
Wow. So that's I've been a bit challenged. That's why I've been quiet for the last few minutes. This has been a bit of a challenging conversation for me, because it's important to know who you are and love who you are and understand whose you are and his love for you as well. That's the short version. But I've been challenged these last few minutes because of what I've been experiencing in my last few years. So I got tired when Doc speaks, and this is no disrespect intended. I just keep hearing the word conform. And I got tired of playing the game to get in the door, to be able to say, see, now you paying me, and stick it to him that way. I got tired of doing that. And so I began over the last 3 to 5 years to create my own authentic happiness, to love myself. I didn't love myself walking in the heels and dressing up and going and to try to teach in 6-inch, 4-inch heels, so that somebody else can make this. And that was not anything that made me happy. I didn't love myself. You talk about love. I didn't love myself in that respect. And so I was not a great example for my child to tell her to do what you love and so that you can love yourself and be happy as well. And so I decided within the last 3 to 5 years that I was no longer going to conform, and I was no longer going to work for anybody else. That if I took money from someone, it was going to be on my terms. That if I want to wear jeans, then I'm going to wear jeans. If I want to wear sneakers, I'm going to wear sneakers. If I want to show up at 2 o'clock and work from home, these are the things that we're going to build into this agreement because you want my expertise and my services. And so I've just gotten to that place, and I've instilled that in my daughter too, that if you want to work for someone because that's a great opportunity and it's going to make you happy, feel free, go do it, but also have the ability, also have the ingenuity, also have the creativity, also have the relationships and the network to be able to create your own opportunities, to build your own door so that you don't have to worry about whether or not somebody looks at you and says, her hair's nappy, I'm not opening this door. Her name is funny because she got an African name, I'm not opening this door for her. No, you understand how to present yourself as somebody who's professional. And if the particular situation requires you to look a particular way for that moment and you feel it authentic to do so, then you go right ahead and do so. But it shouldn't be because they view you as unprofessional if you don't, or they view you as less than if you don't. And so I've been listening quietly, trying to receive everything. But I have, if I'm being transparent, been a bit challenged over the last few minutes because I'm just no longer at the place where I'm willing to do what makes somebody else comfortable, because that is not loving me. That is conforming so that I can fit in, so that I can reach whatever plateau my particular industry says I need to reach, et cetera, et cetera. And I know that I can impact others' lives when I master how to create a personal economy, when I master how to create revenue streams that others can benefit from and my community can benefit from, so that I can go and share that information to others, because that's love. If I get this information and I share it with others and it impacts others' lives, and I'm expressing the love that was given to me from my father, and it just trickles down. And so that's kind of where I am with that right now.
And that's why I had to have your perspective, Denise, because it's important. Again, being at the kitchen table here, my lovely dinner table, and these people are eating well. That's the perspective. We need all perspective to rise to the top. Because correct, Denise, and that's what a couple of comments about, are we doing in order to be accepted? Is what we're doing to be accepted? You've just challenged a couple of notions, and your notion is be authentic. And maybe your authentic you might not be accepted at first, but as you be authentic, you can end up building your own path. In fact, one of the conversations we will have in the future episode is a courageous conversation, seat at the table or making our own table. Because we have to now challenge, a part of the empowerment is to say, if I can come into your world, now let me create a world that can provide for, that can help give me the best I can be, and help me to reach for my highest level that I want to reach. Roger, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'm good. I was going to say that to the point, and Denise and Maurice, thank you both for sharing your perspective. I think
great perspectives.
I think at the table, you know, the diversity of thoughts are critically important because there are, and let me just say, Black folks have long learned to subvert the narrative, the dominant narrative, through a diversity of mechanisms to get to where we need to go. Langston Hughes talk about being told to eat in the kitchen, but he says I sit back there and I eat and I grow strong. But when tomorrow comes, I'll be big and I'll strong, and nobody will be able to tell me to sit at the that I can't sit at the table. I think that, to your question about love, Ricardo.
Yes, let me expound on the question a bit for you, Doc, as you come in. As I think about empowering our sons, there are languages I'm using in my home that I didn't hear from a male figure, because again, my dad passed away when I was 8. But for me as a man, it's easier to hear I love you from a female. I've been very deliberate in telling my boys how much I love them. It's a deliberate language that I've been using as I say, I love you, and explaining why I do. As I think about the crisis that plague our young men, I ask myself a question, wondering, how much love do our young men feel? Do they feel loved by, and again, go back to the Ethiopian proverb, if a child doesn't feel embraced by his village, he'll burn it down for the warmth. How much love, and I start from the home going out. Some as a perspective of giving love to our children as they come up in a deliberate way.
And so part of it is that we insulate them, we empower them by telling them and talking to them about their somebodyness. Is what Maurice is doing with his baby girl, is what Wayne has done and is doing with his children, and Denise with her daughter, that you are somebody, right? And that somebodyness is not in proximity or in juxtapositioning or in context or in relationality to what they or others said about you. You are inherently beautiful. And I affirm that because I've said long that I have two boys, and just about now they're taller than I am, just about now. I kiss them on their faces. Once I was walking with one of my boys. Well, he was walking with his friend, and close to my house, and he was with another kid, and I was in the car and I saw them walking, and I pulled over and I walked over there to say hello, and I greeted my son with a kiss, and you could see the blood draining from the kid's face. And then afterwards, he said to my son, "Your father kissed you?" And these are teenagers. And so part of it to make them whole is exactly that, is to show them, to love them unconditionally, to affirm their somebodyness. Some of you may be familiar with this study, and it's been repeated many, many times over, because
Yes.
I sent it to you. Dr. Kenneth Clark, a renowned psychologist from the 1940s and 50s, African American,
Yes.
did this study with brown doll, white doll. Some of you may be aware of it. And it's been repeated many times over. And the result is oftentimes the same. One youngster repeated the study, and she put two dolls in front of a little girl, in front of multiple children. And she asked them essentially all different kind of questions. Which doll is the good doll? The white doll is the good doll. Which doll is the black doll? Is the bad doll? The black one. Which one looks like you? The black one. To affirm our kids and their somebodyness, their inherent, goodness and God's grace upon their lives, we can do that. And so, to Maurice's point, when the world tried to knock them down, they're reminded that they are brilliant, they're beautiful, they can do and become anything that they want to do. But the punctuation point that I have to put in here, because I don't want to sound utopian, I want to hit the harsh reality. And that is, you can and we can do all of those kinds of things. The truth of the matter is, they still have to go into those classrooms. Yes. They still have to go on the street. They still have to contend. And the truth of the matter is, to talk about every kid is different. The truth of the matter is that, as we could deny it as much as we want, those variables, those hostile and defining variables, continue to be a part of their psyche and how they view themselves. And we could only do the best we can and pray and lobby for changes, whether it's going to the school board, whether it's standing up and fighting for the kids, whether like Denise and whether it's like Wayne is giving them their own voices to say, I'm not putting on your wig, all right? Or, or yes. I'm not reading this book, to give them enough of a voice so that they could speak truth to power, so that they could, bit by bit. My son just joined and he's some vice president for the social work group in his college, and he's finding his voice. He's reading all of these things. He's pulling some of my books. So we could do all of our part, but we could also admit that they're
and that's one of the things I want to jump. One of the things I'm saying, I'm coming to you, Doc. I'm seeing you, man. Is we cannot ignore the brutality of the external issues, the external stimuli. And I give you this statistic that I pulled up just preparing for today's session. More than 100 studies have indicated that the stress of racism, listen to this carefully, those of you watching, more than 100 studies, and this was about 2015, this was done, have indicated that the stress of racism inflicted on people of color is more severe than obesity and smoking. It is a reality that what is faced outside, and I heard something, Wayne said he and his grandmother walking and somebody calls grandmother by the first name, but what I heard is a grandmother responding to the person with Miss before that person's first name or last name. And so against the context of what you're going to respond to, Dr. Moore, I wanted this to be out there, that the reality of there's a stress factor. You and I spoke off here on PTSD of racism. There's a stress factor that causes someone to suddenly go through a traumatic responses when there's a police officer just tailgating just behind them, But go ahead as we do put a bookend to discuss the conversation about empowering and resilience and all that going on. Go ahead.
Yeah, in response to how do we show to, especially our Black males, came to mind, and this is from the experience of not being a father to Black males, but just having the privilege of having so many young men in my life, right?
Yes.
And what I found is consistent and visible presence is what speaks love to African American males, because that's not been the narrative of our experience as African American males or Caribbean males. I'm reminded of a story, and I'll share it really quickly. A pastor interviewed a gang leader of his community, and he asked him, "Why is it that you're so successful in reaching men?" And this is what the gang leader said. The gang leader said, "I'm the first person they see in school, and I'm the first person they see on their way home." I propose we need to be healthy gang leaders, so to speak, meaning that we are a visible presence in the lives of not only our own children, but having been around young men who they didn't have a father in the home. They were raised by single parent moms, being that consistent presence, showing up to their basketball games, showing up and speaking and becoming that healthy gang leader is what I'm saying. It's one of the things I've seen that speak of is just being that visible presence, even when their mom can't be there and their dad can't be there. And I believe that's our responsibility as a community, not only for our children, but for those that we have access to.
Oh, powerful point. In fact, it's a consistent and visible presence. Somebody made a comment a while ago. AJ Daly said, Black youth want to express themselves without being judged. And I go back to what Denise said. And as a son of a Jamaican, sweet, Bununus mother, and for my Americans, Bununus is just the most loving way you can describe someone. Sweet, loving mother. It was always a way of speaking properly, looking properly, looking well, looking presentable is the correct word. And one of the struggles I find as I've interacted with teenage Black men, young Black men, going back to Denny's point of the need to be authentic, who you are, without being judged. And I show you another stats here, Denise, as you can take that on. Not any of you, gentlemen. A lot of Black teenagers believe they will have a negative encounter with the police. It's the number one fear of many or every Black or brown parent today. So the teenagers already feel that they're going to have a negative encounter. It is a fear of the parent. As we empower them, Denise, how did you empower your daughter to be authentically her? Yes.
No, go ahead with finish the question.
Yes, authentically who she is, while at the same time, just soaring, because I know she's quite successful, a young lady.
It's still a challenge with her because she's because of those external voices. that we talked about. So she's still learning to grow into it. But you know, I often say I gave birth to a daughter, but I'm a mother to many because I'm in education, and so you know,
Yes.
I have a lot of sons that I still work with from my 25 years of education, and that are grown and still in relationship with them. And that was part of their biggest challenge, that they just wanted to be who they were, or at least who they knew they were at that time. Many of them were that way because they weren't exposed to anything else, whatever that way is. They were who they were because they weren't exposed to anything else. So, and you talk about their interaction with police, that they were fearful. They had those interactions at a very young age, at least here in the Washington, D.C. area, at a very young age. So they already had that. The fear was founded. It was based off of experience. It wasn't, I think this may happen to me, or I'm fearful that this will happen to me. It already happened to them. And so it's just, for me, again, it went back to not having to go the route of least resistance, right? So I can fight your belief of who you are and your perception of you and how you dress and how you wear your hair and try to convince you to change all of that. Or I can work with you where you are, find your strengths, find your talents. Let's work with where you are and develop your economy, develop your skills, develop your gifts, so that you're able to do the things that anybody just wants to do, right? They want to provide for their family. They want to have a safe place to live. They want to do all of those things. So let's figure out how to do that off the skills that you have here. It's not about your clothes. That's what you fight into. It's not about the music you're listening to. I mean, all of that will change as you grow and learn other ways and other methods, and your mindset is exposed to other trains of thoughts and other philosophies and things like that. So oftentimes we try to fight people. You know, we deal with this in the church all the time, right? Sister come in, her skirt's too short, her top's too low, and we ready to throw her out the church, and nobody bothers to ask, do you have a dress? Do you have a shirt? That would know, nobody wants to deal with her where she is, just condemn. And if we take the time to really talk and find out who somebody is, and I say we because these are our community members, so we should be able to be patient enough to be able to sit down and have these conversations and say, what is your goal in life? Where do you want to be? Let's see what you have right now that we can contribute to that particular journey, and build the other skills that are necessary to fortify on the way. And that's how we'll empower them to be who they are, but also kind of push them towards who they want to be, and nurture them towards who they want to be, and love them towards who they want to be.
It is an empowerment conversation you have tuned into tonight on Facebook Live, a courageous conversation, in fact. And in about 12 minutes, we'll be doing a launching that you're going to want to be a part of. If you have a son at home, if you have a brother, a husband, a boyfriend, a fiance, a father, ensure that they're tuned in about 12 minutes, because we're going to be doing a major launch in order to tap into this idea of empowering. And here's why the notion of empowerment, asking the question, are we empowering our young sons or young Black men to survive or to thrive? Because the statistics are depressing for me. Black males are 2.5 times, 2.5 times more likely than white males to be stopped by the police. Almost 3 times. Our Black sons are almost 3 times more likely to be stopped by the police. Incarceration rate is 6 times more likely among Black than whites. 6 times. Black men are more likely to have negative encounters with the police, regardless of zip code, paychecks, or public status. We spoke about Senator Tim Scott earlier on. 33% of all Blacks who were killed by police were unharmed. 33% of all Blacks who were killed by the police are unharmed. What about the presence of the Black man that is perceived as a heightened threat to necessitate the use of deadly force at all times? Whether they're going away or whether they're just trying to do what comes natural to protect themselves. On Wednesday morning, after come back from my run, I posted something that many of you have been waiting to hear about. I posted that my run was interrupted by a conversation with a police officer. Police officer, patrol woman Maria Herrera. What happened, you asked? You may be thinking. On my way back home from my run, I was thinking I need to have a conversation with the police. Maybe the next broadcast will be from the police station. I don't know. But as I ran back, I saw a police car parked up. It wasn't trailing me, no. It was parked up ahead of me. So this black man decided to stop and to engage that police officer. I knocked on the window, and she was like, "Oh, yep." I beckoned for her to roll it down because I need a conversation. It was about 7:30 a.m. on a lonely road. A police officer and a tall 6'3" black man asking her to wind down her window for a conversation.
Courageous.
What pursued was even more interesting. I said to her, "I'd love to speak with you. What's your name? I'd like your card." She was seated. I was standing, towering above her. And I said to her, in light of what's going on, I want to have a conversation with the police in my precinct. Because my 9-year-old son recently said to me, "Dad, why are they doing that to us? Is it because we're black? I've never seen them done it to any white guy." Immediately, goose pimples filled her arms, which was just out, and it's almost like a tear trickled down her eyes. She asked me to step aside so she could step out for us to continue the conversation. The conversation went on for about 10, 15 minutes because for me, I told her, I'm uncomfortable living in a city, growing boys in a city where I'm not sure if they're safe from the police. She made a call while I was there to a superior to try to set up a meeting with me and them. So an email conversation is going on behind the scenes. So no, it wasn't a negative interaction. In fact, for me, it was a hopeful interaction because I dared to have a courageous conversation. I dared to stop a police officer and I dared to ask her to wind down her window. In fact, while we're speaking, another patrol car pulled up behind us. And our conversation went on. I hope to have a conversation with them. I hope to sit down in my city, in the precinct that's just about a mile and a half from my house, to see if we can speak, to see if they can understand my sons, or can I understand them? You see, I have 2 boys growing up in a predominantly white neighborhood, and I do not want them to grow in fear. So already I've decided I want to bring them to the police station to introduce them. But before that, I want to have a direct conversation with them. And so that is what is in the offing. I know Dr. Ball is doing the things behind the scene as well, but I believe I cannot only prepare my sons in order to have a defensive posture. I need to try as best as I can, whatever way I can, to hit it head on. Let them know that my sons are scared of you. It's not healthy for them. It's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for us as a community. Let's have a conversation. And I hope it will take place. And when it takes place, you'll be the first to know, my viewers. And of course, my friends at my kitchen table, you of course will be a part of it. All of you know what's going to happen next, and I want to now tell my viewers at now 10 minutes to 9 o'clock, out of this conversation, I've been challenged that it should be beyond a talk. It should be beyond a conversation. A conversation is necessary. Dialogue is critical to change. But we are moving ahead while talking, while conversing, while critiquing, while discussing. We want to move this forward. So Lady Ball, it's my pleasure now to unveil here tonight with about 89 persons on and many more viewing elsewhere, an initiative that we have decided. We believe that we need to be the change that we want to see. We shouldn't only speak about it, but we should be it. We should become what we desire. Therefore, tonight is my pleasure to launch before you tonight the Raising Black Men Mentorship Program. For all those of you who want help with your sons, help with your brothers, help with the men in your lives, we are launching a Raising Black Men Mentorship Program. What is our mission? Here's our mission. Our mission, first of all, is to empower our sons. It is to uplift our brothers. Our mission is to engage our community, as I spoke about the police. Our mission is to impact our world. So yes, this is our mission, is to empower our sons. It's not just going to be talk. We want to empower our sons. We want to uplift our brothers. We want to engage our community. And ultimately, wherever we are, our intention is to impact our world. How will this look? Here's our intention: to launch an official website. So if you are about websites, you can email me to help with this respect. We're going to legally register this mentorship program as a non-for-profit. We want to provide one-on-one mentoring. We want to be able for you to say, hey, Rick, can Dr. Ball talk to my son for me? Hey, Rick, we're having something. Can you come by? What can you do for my boy? And my boy needs somebody, particularly you single mothers. I am a son of a single mother. My father died at age 7, and my mom had to raise me along with my sisters, and there are men in the community who looked out for me. So we want to be there for your sons. We want to do retreats and seminars and workshops, all with the aim of empowering. We want to provide support, educational support, spiritual support. We want to provide guidance, financial literacy guidance. We believe one of the issues in our community is financial stability, economic success, economic empowerment. We want to do that through this medium. We believe we want to help provide relationship mentoring so that we can have great young men who are great fathers, great husbands, that are great partners overall, in order to become a valuable impact in their society, and first for their children, for their family, and for the community. We want to be a life support. We want to be that lifeline. Simply put, we just want to be there. Sometimes that's all we know brothers need, is somebody who just be there. And through this initiative of Raising Black Men Mentoring Program, we want to be able to provide that support. Now, it's not about me alone doing this. We're blessed to have a few partners who are coming on board and to share with this. And this clip will tell you who they are and what they're doing.
Good evening. My name is Bishop Dr. Yu Tom Lang, and I'm a medical doctor, a pastor, a father, grandfather, a husband, and I am so excited and committed in being a part of the Raising Black Men Mentorship Program. I'm excited and I'm all ready to go because we have a lot to do for the Lord. Amen.
Hello, my name is Nimal Amitirigalo. I'm a father, and I'm also president of Grace Foods Canada. I commit to being part of the Raising Black Men Mentorship Program.
Hello, my name is Kevin Middleton. I'm the father of Honor Middleton. I'm also a teacher, preacher, and a professor, and I commit to being a part of the Raising Black Men Mentorship Program.
Hey, what's up, family? This is Pastor Tyrone. Some people say Papa San, some people say Pastor Tyrone. Well, just want to inform you, as a husband with one beautiful wife, father of, 6 kids, and we have adopted one called adopted daughter is 7. We have something to offer to the table, and we have a program called Mentoring Young Black Men, and we want to mentor them in a biblical way and give them some biblical direction from scriptures. So I hope you keep in touch with us, and this will edify you. I'm looking forward to have a good time. One love. God bless.
Hello, my name is Kadeem Williams. I'm a first generation master's graduate and aspiring higher education professional. I'm a son and I'm a brother, and I am committed to being a part of the Raising Black Men mentorship program.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Nigel. I am a son. I am a godfather. I am a brother. And first and foremost, I'm a man of God. A black man, a man of God. And I'm very interested in participating in the Black Men's Mentorship because I want to make myself available to help those men coming up in any way I can. I mean, I'm currently a security supervisor at Montefiore Hospital. I was also with PD, so I've been on both sides of the equation. So I think I could share some insight into some of the unfortunate circumstances that are going on today. So again, I'm more than interested and willing to help those come behind us forge ahead. God bless. Peace.
Hi, my name is Vaughn Walters, and I'm a marketing and communications consultant who's also a son, a brother, an uncle, and a friend, and I commit to being a part of the Raising Black Men mentorship program.
Hello, everyone. My name is Albert Douglas. I'm a father, I'm a counselor, I'm also the president of I Empower. I am so excited to be a part of Raising Black Men mentoring program. I look forward to collaborating with great leaders and visionaries as we strengthen the future and outcome of our Black men in today's society. Thank you.
I am Dr. AJ Daly. I am a husband. I am a father. I am a brother. I am a friend. I am an application architectural manager for a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and I am the Northeast Region Youth and Transitions Ministries Director for the Church of God of Prophecy. I am humbled and committed to being a part of the Raising Black Men mentorship program.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ron Cooper, and I'm a technology education specialist and educator at New York City Department of Education. I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm committed to the Raising Black Men initiative.
So there you have it. Black men, successful Black men, stepping up and becoming a part of our Raising Black Men initiative. Of course, we haven't heard from our brothers and our sister online yet. So I'll open the microphones to hear if they're committed. Starting with you, Dr. Ball.
My name is Roger. I am a father. I am a brother. I'm a husband. I am a son. And I am all in for this amazing mentorship program.
Thank you so much, Doc. Maurice, are you on?
I am Maurice Cassell. I am a son, a husband, a father, a mental health worker, and I'm committed more than ever to being that practical example and mentor to someone that needs me.
G-Wayne.
Good evening again. My name is Wayne Elliott. I am a born-again Christian. I am a son. I am a husband. I am a father. And I am committed to being a part of this phenomenal initiative to help raising young Black men to become the best that they can be in Christ.
Thank you. And the lone woman to be the first mentor, if she's so pleased.
I am Denise Hill. I am a mother, a daughter. I am an educator and a communicator, and I am absolutely down definitely with being a mentor. Some phenomenal brothers.
Thanks, Denise. And those of you watching, you can be a part of this easily. One, simply send me an email if you want to be a mentor to cgfradio@gmail.com. That's C as in Charlie, G as in Grace, F as in future, radio @gmail.com. Simply say, I want to mentor, be a part of the Raising Black Men Mentorship Program. To become a mentor, need to know who you are, tell me about you. And for those of you who want your sons, and if you are watching, want to be mentored, please let me know who you are. Please send your information. It's important. So get involved too. It's cgfradio@gmail.com. Let me know if you want to be a mentor, or let me know if you want to be mentored. It is our pleasure to do that for you today. And this for us is basically moving a conversation into action. And of course, let me thank my brothers and my sister for your support in this initiative as we move forward. Before we go, I want to read a poem to the brothers watching tonight. This is a poem that I wrote in 2014 as I sat in a lonely apartment in Toronto, Canada, on an assignment for my company, family here, alone there. And all the things were going on in my mind. I thought of the struggles that men go through, and I was going through. So this is my poem for you. To my brother who suffers silently without the words to express the pain you feel, I hear you. To my brother who is treated like a boy at work, but must be a man at home, I affirm you. To my brother who labors valiantly to provide for your family who depends on you, while feeling underappreciated, even taken for granted and abused, I salute you. To my brothers who feel overwhelmed and undervalued, yet has no one with whom to share your deepest anxieties, hurts, frustrations, and disappointments, I empathize with you. To my brother who continues working even though you find no purpose nor passion for the work you do, I encourage you. To my brother who keeps on loving while feeling disrespected, even ridiculed, I love you. To my brother who feels caged in the prison of your own emotions without the words to express your desires, ambitions, and aspirations, I speak for you. To my brother who struggles with an addiction secretly while pretending to have it all together publicly, I pray for you. To my brother who must be brave and strong outwardly while feeling scared and lonely internally, I honor you. Take the time to affirm your brother in your life today. He may just need to hear it right now, today. And that's for you, my brother. I love you. I respect you. I encourage you. I affirm you. I hear you. I pray for you. I empathize with you. I am you. And that just leads me to say thank you. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. Thank you, my friends who joined me at my dinner table. To Denise Hill, my lovely sister, whom I can call at any time to just be a part of this or whatever we do. I love you, Denise. Thanks much, sis. To Dr. Roger Ball, a brother who has worked with me through this. As I said to his wife today, we're alike. We're very much alike in many respects. And we're from the same town in Jamaica. I love you, my brother.
Much love, my brother.
Thank you. To my brother, Maurice Cassels. He calls me a big brother. In many ways, I respect him. In many ways, I've looked up to him. He has struggled with young men, while himself being a young boy himself. He has been leading men, young men, while he himself was looking for leadership. And so he's a great man you see here. Maurice, thanks for your availability and your willingness to participate tonight.
Love you and appreciate you. And to all of us on the panel, thank you for your amazing perspective and what you're doing in your area to make a difference. So I have to say that I appreciate you, and I appreciate all of you for what you're doing. Thank you.
Amen. And to my brother G. Wayne Elliott, my brother from down south, who now up north, a brother who has been one where for years we've just been in and out of each other's lives. Wayne Elliott was the first person I sent a text the night when I posted that a courageous conversation standby, and he responded with what you did on the graduation show, anything for you.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I did a graduation show before. And of course, that I want to also thank somebody you're not seeing live on screen. She is our technical director, the wife of Dr. Roger Ball, the indefatigable Lady Seneca Ball, who has kept us on air all this time, who doesn't mess around with schedules and deadlines. She is simply amazing. Sister Seneca, much love and much thanks for your hard work being and making this happen. And to you who have tuned in tonight, for you who have been there sharing this live, sharing this link with everybody, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. The conversation continues. We're going to be meeting with black and white couples soon. We're going to be talking about what Denise hinted out earlier. We're going to talk about being seated at the table or owning our own table. We're going to talk about the Caribbean American and African American perspective. We're going to have a conversation with sisters called No Woman, No Cry. The Black Sister Speaks. All that and more coming up next, right here on the Courageous Conversation here on Facebook Live. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'm Ricardo Bryan. Good night.